Welcome back to the Exceptional Sales Leader podcast, and welcome back for the second time in the space of, I think it's 4 or 5 months. Um, Mr. Donny Hackett coming in from Maryland in the US of A, and he's sitting here on a Thursday evening with his bloody medals of triathlons and marathons sitting over his left shoulder. Welcome back to the podcast, my friend.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yeah, it's been busy 4.5 months, I guess. And it's cold out here, so I'm sure it's warm down there.
Well, it's winter up there, and that's where the Winter Olympics are going to be in the Northern Hemisphere. But it is smack bang in the middle of summer down in Australia. And I was talking to somebody actually last week from Canada, and he was saying it was minus, and they use Celsius. So I'm going to
Yeah.
try and convert it to Fahrenheit. He was saying it was like minus 25 degrees Celsius, which I think is still under zero in Fahrenheit. And where I am, it was 45 degrees Celsius or about 115 Fahrenheit. So there was this, he was shoveling snow, and I've got the air conditioning on because it's like the hottest it's ever been in the history of the world down here.
That's wild. Yeah. I mean, I just looked, it's 10 degrees Fahrenheit right now where I am. So, yeah,
Damn cold. So there's snow outside.
exactly. Plenty.
Love it.
About a foot and a half.
Ugh. Does that mean you've got a snowmobile you got this big shovel to try or you're stuck?
A plastic shovel that I've had for about 8 years. It's my trusty yellow shovel and it still works and I love it.
And it gives you a
Yeah.
workout as well, which is fantastic.
I mean, it might put me out for a day or two, but after I finish, but it's good.
Awesome. Hey,
It's all
we're
good.
not here to talk about snow or heat or temperatures.
No,
We are here to talk about Verideal. And when we first got together back in September, you were building Verideal, and it's been a bit of a bumpy journey, as you've alluded to before we press record. So I'd love to jump into that. But the good news, it's up and running, it's live, and you were just sharing with me that things are going great guns. And you even jumped onto YouTube and started to become a YouTube sensation, talking all things marketing and the world of a solo entrepreneur. But before we jump into, I guess, the story of what's happened in the last few months, for the people who've listened, well, maybe haven't listened to the first episode, can you just give a little bit of background on you and what prompted you to start Verideal?
sure. Yeah. Um, so quick overview and background of myself. So I grew up in Austin, Texas. And then after high school, instead of going to university, college, I decided to join the military. So I spent 4.5 years in the Coast Guard, and primarily on the East Coast up in the DC area. So when I left the Coast Guard, I knew I was destined for sales. It was just something that I was drawn to. So I first got into wine sales in the DC area. So I was in wine sales for about 4.5 years or so. Started at the very bottom, stocking grocery shelves to being at the premier importer and being the top person at that importer, managing 8 states and multi-million-dollar territories. Um, then COVID happened, everything changed, and so I wanted to get into technology sales. So moved over to technology sales. I first started off in telecom and then I went to AWS
Mhm.
and I felt like I truly made it. I was really excited. I started off in a great position, really happy. And about 5 months in, my screen goes black one Wednesday at 10:32 in the morning. And so I text my manager and I say, "What's going on?" And he goes like, "Well, you've been laid off along with 9 other thousand people."
9,000?
So 9,000, 9,000.
Whoa!
So I called a few of my friends that were on the sales team. I was like, "Well, do you guys want to get some beers? Have nothing else to do today." So, but then 24 hours reality hit. Young family, two kids at home, really the sole provider. And I realized that I need to find another job. So I did what everyone else does. You first go on LinkedIn or Indeed, filter all your jobs or the criteria, and then you just start mass applying. And
Mm,
then you realize, well, everyone else is going to do this. And there's about five other tech companies that just laid off that many people. So, how do I stand out? Okay, let's go to my network. I reached out to my network and I quickly realized something very important within my network. One, they either are scared that they will get laid off or fired. And so they're hoarding the good jobs, even really good friends. And
mm,
I found out this a year or two later, which I don't blame them. They should. Or the other thing was they were passing out so many good referrals and good leads that they ran dry after two or three because you only get a few a month. So your network kind of was there, but wasn't, right? LinkedIn, Indeed, 100 applicants for a job. So then that's where I had the idea of how do you stand out in this job
mm.
market now and moving into the future? And that's where Verideal came on. That's where the light bulb really was. So after going through numerous interviews and so many interviews, my wife was making fun of me. Like I'm just a Mr. Interview. Like I know how to interview and really good at it. And I quickly realized like to really stand out, you have to show something different. And what is what is the most important thing to show as a sales rep? Proof of your performance. And how do
Mm,
you show proof of your performance? You have to have a verified portfolio, a professional portfolio. All these other professions, white collar professions, have these like Playwright has their scripts, right?
mm.
Engineers and developers, they have GitHub, GitLab, right? So why not sales reps have their own professional portfolio?
Yeah.
So there it is. Yep. I'll take a
And
pause right
hence,
there.
and hence,
Yeah.
Verideal gets created.
That's it. It took a while from idea to pen and paper, but it definitely was there.
Because I wanted to touch on, as you were mentioning, your journey through that process, and I was thinking, okay, when most salespeople apply for a role, they use their CV or they'll put stuff on LinkedIn, and even LinkedIn, and I'll give an example, and I'll protect the names of the guilty here, but there are people that used to work for me back in the day when I was running sales teams, and I look at their CV that's placed on their LinkedIn profile, and when I look at their titles, when I look at their roles, when I look at their responsibilities, and when I look at their achievements, I'm thinking to myself, hmm, we were in the same company. They were reporting to me, and I don't recall any of what they say there. I don't recall that title. I don't recall them doing that achievement. So a lot of it's potentially embellished. And when you look at somebody's resume, a lot of people look at a resume and they'll make a decision on shortlisting somebody based on what's on a resume. But the question is what's on the resume actually accurate and factual, or has it been embellished a little bit, right? So,
And yeah, I was just gonna add like not to fault salespeople too much, right? But we are taught in our profession is to talk, be very charismatic, and at times people are known to stretch the truth. And why
yes,
not stretch the truth on your own resume if you're looking for a new job? So there it is. Yeah.
correct, correct.
Yeah.
And so, can you then describe? Because I want to go through the I guess the chain of events and some of the challenges you've had to go through to get Verideal now into the marketplace and operational. Um, what's the essence of it? Because the people will be listening to this and saying, well, okay, I'm a salesperson, I'm a sales leader that's trying to recruit salespeople. I'm trying to expand my sales organization, and I go through the normal headhunters. I might go direct to market, whatever the case might be. Can you talk a little bit about the niche that you identified and I guess the essence of what Verideal actually does? for a recruiting organization or for a head of sales that's trying to bring in good people?
So I'll share a story I had with a VP of sales for a very high growth AI company that a lot of people probably have heard of. And the story has gone like this, where I was discussing Verideal and the benefit of Verideal to himself. And the VC firm that instructed him to hire and double his headcount within 6 months. He already had 12. He needed to have 24. And he
Right.
needed 24 to not only come in, but perform. So the horror story that I'm sure everyone can attest to is when you make a rush decision, let's say 50% actually work out. So
Yeah.
now you're having to burn how much cash? And I think the right now, if it's an enterprise role mid-market, you're spending 100 to $300,000 on like the per month for that role. And
Mm,
that's a lot of lost opportunity. So why even leave this up to chance? Why leave hiring up to chance for sales anymore? Especially when you know these targets are becoming extremely hard to hit.
mm,
The goals are becoming very lofty. These VCs and PE firms are only going to increase. And so if mishiring someone and in 6 to 9 months you realize that they haven't brought in any revenue, what are you doing? You
mm.
need to have verification that what their career has been actually matches their resume.
Yeah.
And so what Verideal is is providing these sales leaders, hiring managers, um, the chance to actually see a few things, which is really fun. One is, did they actually close these deals, right? But not only that, they have buyers' reaction of the deals closed. And it's kind of like a Google review, right?
Mm,
did like did this person actually care about me or was it a fast close? Did this person hang around after the deal was closed to make sure that the install was proper? There's going to be a little rating, a small rating to start, but the sales reps will get rating. And then the
mm,
fun part, if you really dig into it, this sales reps will have a network of buyers attached to them. So you as a sales hire, like a hiring manager, right? I was talking to this person that hiring manager wanted to hire a enterprise sales rep within manufacturing in the Mid-Atlantic down to
mhm.
South Carolina. And he was like, if I could find someone that has closed these four companies with like verified, I would hire them on the spot and give them a massive bonus because I know within 2 weeks I could have those conversations started again.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's what Verideal is going to do. You're going to see their network.
Mm,
You're going to see the buyers who they actually
mm.
care about.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Love it. Love it. And so just the mechanics, because I do want to get into, I guess, your journey and your lessons
Sure.
as a founder, as a single founder. Um, so is it who controls? So your ideal customer, is it the end user who's looking for roles that signs up to Verideal, or is it an enterprise sales leader who's looking for verification of somebody's credentials and past performance that signs up? So where do you sell this in terms of a concept?
So the fun and extremely hard part about Verideal is it's a multi-sided network platform, right? So you have sales reps that have the deal and the verification. Then you have buyers that want to engage because there's an attribute for buyers as well. Because and I'll go off on a little tangent right here so you understand, but buyers can access Verideal, filter down the exact technology that they want to buy. Let's say it's cybersecurity and then filter down even more. And they want to only deal with mid to large enterprise customers or companies. Okay, well, here's a list of five sales reps. All right, let's filter down four stars to 5 stars. Now you have three. Now you just contact them, and now you're dealing with the top sales reps from the top firms, and you know you're going to be handled with care.
Mm.
So that's the buyer side. The recruiting side, it's kind of the same way, right? You can find and hire manager. And then, oh, I guess that's a hiring manager as well. So, like I just said, you just filter down to the exact sales rep that you're looking for that has past performance verified. So, if you want to say three nice little networks play here.
So as a sales rep, I can have a subscription of Verideal and put all of my, I guess, deals in there. My customers can also be there, and my customers will give me feedback on those deals. And was I the person that hung around after the contract, or was I just leaving them in my wake and going on to the next deal? But what you're also saying there is, as a customer looking at prospective opportunities and technologies, I can use that as my research arm because we know that a lot of organizations do a lot more research and probably have got to a point where they've made 75 to 80% of their decisions before they engage with a organization or a specific person. So they know a lot about the individual before they reach out. So you can use that as for the buyer's research as well. And then the sales leader looking for, okay, how do I bring in a person who's telling me they're a great salesperson, but how can they prove it? And is there verification from a third party, being the buyer, that what they tell me on their resume and what they talk about in the interview has been, I guess, verified by an experience and actual feedback from the customer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Love it.
So it's
Love it.
all a large wheel of verification.
So you can pretty much sell this to anybody.
Exactly.
The
Yep.
market is huge for you.
It is. It's fun when you start thinking about it this way because it reduces the noise in the market. It reduces, I have a really good friend who's an IT buyer for the past 20 years, and I was telling him about this, and he was like, "Oh, fantastic. Cold calling, cold email can be gone with because I can just go out and research the exact person."
Yeah,
But to be fair, I mean, how many cold emails actually get answered? How many
yeah,
cold calls actually get answered? I mean, my iPhone just filters cold calls
yeah.
away from me these days.
It does.
So,
It does. So before we talk about your experience, the have you nailed down for Verideal your unique selling proposition, or is it what you've just talked about, the fact you've got multi-pronged approaches? And have you had, because part of it is how do we get, I guess, penetration in the marketplace? Are there competitors out there? Are there others that are doing similar things? What have you been thinking about in terms of what makes Verideal unique, or at least differentiating from others?
yep. So, um, kind of what we've talked about, but to drill down on the exact question, it's specifically there's one competitor that really kind of comes to my mind. Um, Sorry for not naming the competitor, but but there's a big difference, and the big difference is and the funny thing is we started our LLCs at the same exact time. So it's
Okay.
hilarious. Yeah. I kind of did that research. But they do peer-to-peer verifications. So if you and me are on the same sales team and, maybe I lost that deal, but it sounds good, I'll send it over to you and you verify it, and you lost that deal, send it over to me, I'll verify that deal. So see how there's, a little play there. From my side, you have to close a deal. And
Yeah.
uh, I am building something about if you do lose a deal, right? And sometimes you lose a deal and it's way out of your control. Like I
Mm.
lost a deal, I think it was last year. The competitor was a $1 billion company, came in, dropped the price in half, and I lost the deal. I was like,
Yeah.
okay, we can't do that.
Yeah.
So, but you still had a good relationship with that buyer, right? That deal cycle, 6 months, 7 months was still solid. So
Mm.
that should be rewarded, in my mind. So that's a little in the future, and I'm happy to share that. Um, but yeah, and then does that kind of answer your question, I guess? Um,
Yeah, because what you're talking about, your major or your key competitor does peer-to-peer, I guess,
yeah,
reviews, and that potentially is subjected to a little bit of mayonnaise, as we say in Australia. So not
there you go.
necessarily the full disclosure. Yeah,
There
mate,
you
I'll
go.
scratch your back, Donnie, if you can scratch my back, and we'll make it look awesome, and everyone's going to be happy. Versus what
Exactly.
we're saying here is no, you've got to actually have a deal that has been closed. Now, what you have said just then is you're going to work on something that maybe a deal is closed and has been lost, but
Yep.
there's still an avenue for the buyer or the key contacts within the buyer organization to provide feedback on, I guess, the service you provided, the things that you did, so that can be verified into, okay, I lost this deal, but this is what my buyers have said to me or said about me in relation to that deal, right? So you've got
Exactly.
a track record, which is factual based on their experience.
Exactly. And it hurts to lose a deal, especially when it's way out of your control.
Mm,
But it hurts even worse when like you lose a deal or two in the year. Let's say you're an enterprise and you only won one deal. That's not a good track record. That's not a good resume. But
mm,
if you have a portfolio that shows that like literally was not up to me.
mm.
But these buyers, 7, 9 months, 12 months together, I showed up every Monday, whatever, right? That needs to be highlighted from my point of view because I think that's very valuable.
Oh, totally. But the other thing it does, which I really like, is you're not just going to take the word of the salesperson as the gospel, where they've said, I
Mhm.
did this deal, I built this relationship, they love me, etc. It's going to be, okay, I say that, but guess what? It's backed up by here's both qualitative and quantitative information from the buyer that said this is what the experience. So it now validates what I'm saying is true, which increases levels of credibility. And it's documentation. It's proof.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's not
100%.
just
Yep.
believe me, buddy. Just believe me. I'm a good person.
Please,
Just trust me.
please, please,
So
please.
so can you take me then through, I guess, your experience, the selling process, right? So you've gone from concept. Obviously, this was born out of the at 10:32 that screen going black, and you think shit, and
Yep.
you're now to a point where you've got something that's tangible that's now been launched to the marketplace. Can you take me
Yep.
through I guess the ups and the downs from a selling perspective to get this, well, to a point where it's ready to be launched? But then let's talk about what's happened over the last couple of months. But to get
Sounds
it to the
good.
point when we were talking back in September, it was getting close to being launched, right?
Yep.
So
Yep.
can you talk a little bit about, I guess, the process you went through from maybe a selling perspective to get it to
Mhm.
the point where you've got something that has something of value in the marketplace. So you would have been doing investigation in the market. You would have been talking to organizations. You would have been talking to sellers and buyers and saying, does this thing have viability? Can you talk a little bit about that process you went through to get you to the point where, yep, this has got merit.
So to validate my idea, it took about and to give me the oomph to get off the couch, metaphorically, and to actually do something about it. Um, Sorry if you were one of the sales managers or VPs that I took interviews with, but I did apply and test this theory out over a lot of interviews. I don't want to say how many, but there was a lot. Sorry for that. But um, each interview, I learned something new and I iterated. I talked to a lot of sales reps. I talked to mainly the laid off ones. How are you going to stand out? And they all said the same thing, right? That I started with LinkedIn, Indeed, job markets, and then your network. And then I don't know. I don't know what to do. Um, and a lot of people have faith in their networks, and I do, and I did too. And until it until it fails, right? That's the you want to rely on yourself, is I guess my thing. So that was kind of the idea validation period for myself. And then, funny enough, so next week is my daughter's first birthday. And it was about 2 weeks after. So we in America we only get 2 weeks of leave after your child's born. I'm not sure about it in
Yeah,
Australia. Um, and I hated that. I absolutely like, I was just like, I want to spend 3 months, right? six
yeah,
months, whatever. I want to spend time with my newborn. You know, it's our third and probably our last. And I really want to cherish this time. And I resented having to go back. And it just drove me insane for those 2 weeks. And so I told my wife, I'm going to start my company. And she was like, okay, we just had a kid, but sure, that sounds logical. So, so I called up my best friend and I was like, hey, I need help coming up with a name. So we started working on that. And anyway, so launched the company officially legally in March last year. I, recruited my first partner, um, who we really never got off the ground. It was more of just like talking, and then he wanted to go heavy into AI, as an engineer. So no problem. Right after that, I went to a second partner. This one was a rush decision from my point of view, because I felt like I lost about 2 months. And so this was a lesson that I like to teach a lot of, or talk about with a lot of
mm,
people that don't rush into anything, have a lot of contracts, hire some advisors, have a lot of contracts. And that's all I got to say about that. So, after the third missed deadline, third month, finally, I was at my wit's end. So I kind of decided to call it, to kind of like back away. We agreed to pay off. I paid him for the time, and then I kind of like took a breather. I was like, I don't know if I this is already 6 months in. I've already burned through two partners. Like I'm exhausted. And my wife was like, "You get your butt out there and you finish this." I'm like, "Cool, right on. I got your support and I love you." So off to it. So that's where you and I connected, I think about 4 weeks after my wife kind of kicked me off. So, um, yeah. So, so from that period, I decided I'm going to take a lot more responsibility and a lot more action. So I started teaching myself how to use technology that is available.
mm,
Um, Flawed code is amazing. Um, and so I have a great advisor, 35, 40 years in technology. He was at Google Cloud. He was an extremely high up engineer. And so he knows his stuff. And so with him and a few other friends kind of helped geared me towards. So got my MVP out within about 14 days, which I was super excited about. Contracted with the company to take my MVP to beta one, so live.
hmm
And we went live just right a week before Christmas. Super excited. Um, with any beta, there's bugs and flaws, and the login stopped working. So then that created a big issue. And of course, it was over the holidays. And then fast forward 3 weeks later, there was still no login issues. So I decided I had to make an audible call and break from that contractor in that company and hire a friend of a friend of a friend who has helped me kind of with hourly, um, within the DevOps side. So, and then along with myself learning how to code a little bit better, and Claude Code has been fantastic. And so, yeah, I think it's safe to say, I don't know, we're at beta version 1.2. I don't know those numbers. I don't get too caught up into those. We are on a version that is extremely safe, secure, private, backboned, everything is secured, and it's really exciting. Things can happen to any company, but I'm extremely proud of where we are today, I guess. I'm happy to dive deeper into any of those history,
Well,
I guess.
I was going to ask you, Donnie, because I know you mentioned there was a few, I guess, relationships you had to sever through the process. And look, anybody that's launching anything, whether it be a new business, a new idea, building a new organization, or even taking on a new role, there's always going to be I guess, a honeymoon period, a probation period, whatever you want to say about that. Looking back on that, what's been some of the key lessons you've learned that you know is going to hold you in good stead for the future when you look out the next 6 to 12 months?
It's a it's an easy phrase and an easy concept to understand now as a leader and a founder and a CEO, right? Having to fire a few people is no one's going to do it besides you.
Mm,
Like you have to do this or else the company dies, right?
yeah.
Or your dream dies. That was one of the harder lessons I've had to learn throughout all these partnerships. We can talk about contracts, we can talk about making sure everything's properly situated, and you have to.
Mm,
That's 100% certain. But at the end of the day, if you're the founder and you're the CEO and you're in charge and there's something wrong, you have to address it. Um, I learned that. I will continue how to learn that in the future in different scenarios. And I think the best thing that has happened to me, and I hope other leaders and that are listening today, I hope this kind of resonates, is like the first time that you had to fire someone, I'm sure you got like that knot in your stomach, right? Or the first time that you had to send like a breakup text message or an email with someone, really like that took a lot. You might not even read that reply when it comes back, right?
mm,
You might wait an hour or two. Um, I feel like myself as a leader, I've gotten way more comfortable with being able to write unemotionally, send it unemotionally, read the reply, good, bad, or very ugly, unemotionally, and just handle it, right? You just it's right there. You just handle it and then you take action. So
mm. And how is that? Because it's also I'm not going to mention where you work because it's you're not absolutely full time in Verideal yet, but you're still
that's right.
building it. So the experiences you've had to get this to a point where it's now live and it's going to start to continue to gain some traction. How has that experience helped you become like a better sales professional, a better sales leader? Um, how have you reflected on that?
Honestly, not too much, but a few times I've caught myself talking to CEOs of other companies as if they are peers and understanding a little bit better of their complex issues because they don't really think about what data storage they're going to use or what telephones they're going to buy. They don't really care about that, right?
Yeah.
Because they're handling some legal, financial, like some major, very painful issues. And sure, I haven't dealt with that on their scale yet, but I've dealt with it on my scale. And I forgot the exact quote, but like everyone's pain tolerance is their pain tolerance because they've only experienced their pain
Mm,
and no one can experience someone else's pain. Anyway, so um, yeah, my conversations with C-suite as a sales rep, still currently, has been night and day. I mean, I feel like I'm just talking to another person, and discovering a little bit deeper because I know exactly what's going on behind the scenes. Yeah, it's a good question because I really haven't thought too much about that.
well, and I love your response because as you were talking, and particularly when you were saying you're getting better at being able to write emails, devoid of emotion or minimizing your emotion or managing your emotions, not reading too much into responses, whether they be good, bad, indifferent, ugly, whatever the case might be. As I'm thinking through this, you building Verideal and now putting it out into the marketplace and having conversations with people who perhaps from a hierarchical point of view are probably more senior and have bigger things to think about, have to be more strategic, can only help you in your thinking, in your communication. So the role that you do right now in the organization you currently work for and provide value to, that should help you become a much better um, professional sales individual. Because here's the thing that I find, and I'd love your take on this. A lot of
Sure.
salespeople in a lot of organizations are very comfortable dealing with people who are perhaps at the same level of them as them, or maybe one up. But when it comes to talking to the C-suite, they almost have a frontal lobotomy and just I don't know how to talk to these people, right? What you've discovered is, you know what? They're human beings just like us, right? Their problems might be more complex, but if I can actually understand how they think and maybe frame it in a way that is relevant to that level of thinking, I can now be treated almost like an equal, not based on where my title sits.
Exactly. Um, and I was having a conversation with a CEO of, I think it was like a 250, 300 person company. So vastly different from where I am at with Verideal.
Mm,
Um, but the fun thing that I quickly saw with his how his brain worked. Um, and I like to read people, I like to understand people, and that's where I feel like I provide the most value is when we were having a conversation in person, his brain was moving so fast and flipping from topic to topic. The conversation that I was having with him about this one little thing did not matter more than 5 seconds,
mm,
which I understood. I can understand that. So to provide that value and translate how I can provide value to his company within 5 seconds matters. And it's not because he doesn't have time. Well, he doesn't have time, but he truly has too many things else to think about and do.
yeah.
Like um, execution within a certain given amount of time. Um, and also just like realizing like yes, they are operating with a higher level of intelligence only because they've had to adapt to that level of intelligence. Like you
Mm,
can't run a 300 person company by just jumping in there. You had to have built it or have that experience. um, so as a sales rep, it's funny that you mentioned that. Like if you don't know how complex a CEO's position is, how are you gonna relate to that? How are you gonna talk
that's
to
it.
that?
That's
Yeah.
it. And that's the interesting thing that a lot of sales reps in that sort of position would lead in. Well, first of all, they'd be probably jumping out of their skin that they got a meeting with a CEO in the first place. Because typically a CEO would push that meeting down to maybe the operational people because they're too strategic. But to get
Yeah.
that in the first place is a huge win. And then getting the audience, you've got to be able to frame it in a way that you're talking a language that resonates with a CEO, which means you have to understand how they think, where their priorities are, what are their competing priorities, and how do I actually make the topic that I want to talk to them about not product specific, but business specific to the point where there's a business problem and my solution is going to help take away some of that pain. That's what CEOs are looking for. How can you come in and make my life a little bit easier without giving me the details about the product? Because quite frankly, I don't care. But what's the problem that's
No,
going to solve? And that's where you'll get traction, which is
exactly.
fascinating. Um,
Yep.
and what I
Exactly.
what I can always guarantee is your ability now as a sales professional is you're going to have, and you've probably already seen this, you're going to have high quality conversations, more business related conversations because you now understand more about how a CEO and how a senior leader actually thinks from a business perspective because you've had to do the same thing with Verideal.
And I don't want to make this sound bad, but I was on a call this week. Yeah, this week, with some IT level managers about some application, right? It was a hour and 10 minute call. I found myself at the 5 or 10 minute mark being like, okay, I know the outcome of this call. Like, we're good. Like we don't need to have this conversation anymore. But, being a good sales rep, you have to sit through
Yeah.
the entire meeting. I thought that was hilarious. I was like, wow, all right. Yep.
You'll never get this
We'll
time
do.
back. But it just goes to
55 more.
show, doesn't it, Donnie, where people's minds are at and how they get caught up in the detail. And the lesson I want to draw out of here for people listening to this, whether you're a sales individual contributor or a sales leader, is you've got to get good at finding and identifying the patterns. And what's the pattern here? What's the big purpose here? What's the key lesson here? And how can I bring people's attention to the key lesson? The other thing you'll notice, and you would have found this with the conversation with the IT guys, is you're probably at a different level of thinking to the point where they're stuck in the detail. You have to have the ability to look above the detail and say, what's the purpose of this? What's the key outcome we're trying to drive towards? And get the conversation to there. What you may have found is perhaps you're talking to the wrong people.
Oh, definitely. It was. Yep. Um, Definitely the wrong people. But it's okay. Yeah, you still have to go through the rungs to get to the right people sometimes.
You
But
do. You
yeah,
do. So mate,
yeah,
now that it's launched, it's in you
yep,
mentioned it's in beta 1.2 or 1.3.
yep,
I'd love you to cast a vision out for the rest of 2026, right? So let's
sure,
just assume we're going to be talking this time next year.
sure, yeah,
Where's Verideal in February
yeah,
2027? What's the vision?
yeah. So first, I'm just making sure that you and the listeners know, beta. So Gmail was in beta for like 7 years. So like people, when they say beta, it means I had to learn this is the company is allowed to make tweaks or changes to the platform and to the company without doing all this other stuff. So beta doesn't mean like it's not good or live.
Mm,
Beta means it's totally live. Anyway, so yeah, February 5th, 2026. And now we're thinking about February 5th, 2027. So the most optimistic um, goals I have, right, is we at Verideal will be able to provide people that adopt the platform, the four people, right? So the sales reps, the hiring managers and recruiters, the buyers, and the sales trainers. I don't think we spoke about the sales trainers. I can get there.
mm,
This four flywheel will not have to worry about layoffs, will not have to worry about where the next job is going to come from, where the next promotion is going to come from. They will understand their roles in going into the future. Um, there's too many layoffs. I mean, I think January for United States, the data just came out, 200,000 people were laid off. That's insane. I want to bridge and go beyond sales reps. I want to go into all different white collar jobs, marketing, product
mhm.
management, anything. Figure out how to get their career portfolio on a verification platform. That is the number one goal. Help people, help companies, help this entire world stand back up on their feet. Is my number one goal. Um, So how to get there? There's a lot of different plates spinning up in the air, and my wife is very supportive and very helpful. So that's good. And the most really, I mean, today Claude Opus 4.6 just came out instead of
Yeah.
4.5, and 4.6 is already light years better. So I'm excited for the advancements of AI. I don't think people here's a little tangent, but I think there's going to be more layoffs in this year in
Yeah.
2026. And I think a lot of companies will realize, wait a second, we actually need humans back in the job in 2027, 2028. So I think we're going to see a pain this year, and then we're going to see a reverse.
Yeah.
Maybe not full 100% occupancy, but maybe 50 to 75% occupancy in 2027 or coming back. And I think that bodes well for the verification, right? Use the time now to prepare yourself for the future. That
Mm,
way, when the wheels do start turning back on for employers, you can just stand out. You can get that next level higher job because you
yeah,
have all this proof.
yeah.
Um, yeah, how's that sound? Is that good?
Well, it sounds great, and I wasn't necessarily asking you for specific numbers to say, you know what, we're going to be, generating X number of millions per month,
Sure.
or X number of
Right.
users. But what I'm this is almost like an evolution because what
Yeah.
people are going to be able to do is, from a selling point of view, they're going to be able to get a get access to this platform, put in their deals, which is outside of their CRM, but it's almost like when they're look and think of, I'll just think about this off the top of my head. You're sitting down with your sales leader at the end of the financial year and you're doing your annual performance review, right? And you're going back over all the things you achieved. Now, what shouldn't happen is you shouldn't have to think about, oh, what did I do 12 months ago? If you're a part of Verideal, you can put all of that stuff in as you go. You've got all the customer interaction and the feedback. You've got the verification of the actual deal. It's there, ready to just spit out and say, here it is, facts, right? From a selling sales manager point of view, you could do exactly the same thing. From a buyer's point of view, you could do the same thing in terms of where are those deals and what was that organization and who was that sales rep? I can't remember 2 years ago. Oh, it's Donnie. So where's Donnie now? Oh, let's make a phone call. But you mentioned
Yep.
another interesting thing, the sales trainer, which is the fourth, I guess, cog of the wheel there. From a sales trainer point of view, talk to me about what they're going to use it for.
So yeah, I totally glossed over that at the beginning, and I apologize. So th this is what I'm kind of also very excited about. So as a sales rep, me personally, over the past 5 years, I've spent, I don't know, five, $10,000 on different courses, trainings, programs, whatever. Some have done batted way above their weight class, and some have like, I was so mad that I spent $5,000 on something out of my own pocket. So mad. So what if the sales trainers or the influencers on LinkedIn that we all see every day, what if they and their sales reps prove their actual ROI? And what I mean by that is there's this one famous guy, and I fully believe that his program works. I think it's like 30 or $50,000 a year. You get in, and 12 months later, what's your ROI?
Mm,
Like, are you just breaking even with that extra 50K? Or are you like earning $300,000 over that? Do you see where I'm going with that? But then
yeah.
on top of that, for the sales trainer, now you can market your actual program. You can say, like, okay, this person was making 180K when he walked in or she walked in, and they are now making 300K. Next year, they're making 400K.
Yeah.
That's because of my training, my program. So then
Mm,
you're just going to add more sales reps to your own program because of how great you are.
yeah.
And then sales managers and recruiters and buyers, they're going to benefit from this ecosystem because now these reps are becoming better. They're
Mm,
not just cold calling, asking a question, and then handing it off to sales engineers to do the rest of the demo or something like that. And they forget follow-ups or they don't know how to do business cases. The managers can look at the sales reps, see their performance, but on top of that, see what they've actually learned.
mm.
Who's trained them? What has the training actually done? Um, so, like I said, this is a whole ecosystem, and I'm very excited for this year. Yeah.
Love it. Love it. So with
Yeah.
that, mate, as we wrap up, because I know it's late. And you've been struck down with your family with a bit of a flu this week, so I'm conscious of you probably need to get some rest. Although you have said you work 7 days a week until midnight anyway, so it's all good.
Yep.
Um, so for people listening to this who they could be a sales leader, they could be a salesperson, they could be a business person, they could be a buyer, right? Um, where's the best place for them to learn more about Verideal, but also if they want to connect with you and maybe talk more about what Verideal might be able to do for them, where's the best place for them to connect with you?
Sure. So, best place, obviously, verideal.com or .io is the website. So please go check it out. Provide any feedback. Send me, there's a contact form on there. Send it, good, bad, ugly. I want to hear it. I want to get good or any feedback. Second place is on LinkedIn. yes, I still have a day job and it will show that. But there's a company page as well, Verideal.
Yep.
So you can connect there. And then I also have a YouTube channel where I go live 3 times a week, just kind of talking about what's happened in the past 3 days, what I've learned, what I'm doing, what's exciting, what's not exciting. So plenty of places to connect with me. I'm out there.
Awesome, awesome, mate. And I'll put all of that on the show notes. And I encourage people to connect with you and people if they're really serious about differentiating themselves in the marketplace, and be the first mover advantage, right? Because I can see within a couple of years this will be saturated, so you'll have another problem. That's when you're
Exactly.
going to have to try to expand into different things other than, as you said before, in a lot of the other white collar roles as well. But that is a good problem to have. Let's hope that that happens sooner rather than later. Um,
I agree.
Donnie, mate, you're an absolute legend. Thank you so much. It's been 4 months since we spoke first time.
Yeah.
Keep up the great work and all the very best
Thank
this
you.
year and into next as you continue to build Verideal into the behemoth that it will become.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks, mate.